Hello, and welcome back to the Den of the Monster Ox, back with another round of Mass Effect. Mass Effect 2 is probably my favorite in the trilogy. I don't know, 2 and 3 are really close for me. I really like both of them for different reasons. Where Mass Effect 1 arguably has the best story, it does the best job of setting up the series. Are the antagonist for the series is not just for the game. Um, it like just all around great storytelling. Mass Effect 2 has the best characters and the best character developments, so that section will be a little bit longer than usual. Um, and then once we get into Mass Effect 3, that one easily has the best gameplay and denouement. I actually argue um, that it is not as bad as most people claim. And, well, come back for the next video when we are digging into Mass Effect 3. In the meantime, though, let's start with our game synopsis of Mass Effect 2 and let's get this started. 2 years after Commander Shepard repelled invading Reapers bent on the destruction of organic life, a mysterious new enemy has emerged. On the fringes of known space, something is silently abducting entire human colonies. Now Shepard must work with Cerberus, a ruthless organization devoted to human survival at any cost, to stop the most terrifying threat mankind has ever faced. To even attempt this perilous mission, Shepard must assemble the galaxy's most elite team and command the most powerful ship ever built. Even then, they say it would be suicide. Commander Shepard intends to prove them wrong. All right, so time for the spoiler-free version of the review. As it should probably be no surprise, I love the game. It's part of my favorite trilogy of all time. So, main characters, best part of the game, easily. The antagonists, they're unique. I really like their background. The environmental storytelling, same as Mass Effect 1. The atmosphere that it creates for our characters and for all the NPCs. It's good, but it's not what I would really want from what I would call a top tier environmental storytelling game. And story development, kind of shocking. It's a very mission driven game. Like you go to this one place to do this one thing, and then you move on to the next place to do this one thing. But the consequences that your choices in how you handle each of those missions, which ones you take in what order, can have some pretty interesting consequences. So I'm giving it a bit of a boost for that. I'm okay with it. So with that, I believe that is the end of our spoiler-free review. So let's move on into spoiler territory. If that's not for you, here's your moment to tap out. And for everyone else, let's get into it. All right, let's start this out with our protagonists. Like I said, our main characters are easily the best part of Mass Effect 2. So just to keep this from going too incredibly long, I'll just go through each of our characters, give a thought or two on each of them, and then kind of do a wrap up. Shepard, kind of as I said in Mass Effect 1, once you get past the first 10 minutes of Mass Effect 1, Shepard doesn't change much. Not even so in the first 10 minutes of Mass Effect 2, Shepard dies and is brought back. And literally there's no change. Like they specifically make sure that there's no changes in Shepard's personality or anything. So it's more like Shepard just went and took a 2-year hiatus and just had no idea what was going on in the galaxy during that time. I kind of wish they had done something more with Shepard's character in there, just to give some form of character development in some way, shape, or form. But no. Jacob Taylor. He's the first companion that you meet. Again, so like the first 10 minutes. Kind of bland, to be perfectly honest. Not the biggest fan of him in Mass Effect 2. He does have a lot more personality in Mass Effect 3. But even still, he's definitely one of the weakest, if not the weakest, companion. Don't worry, we've got a long list. Miranda Lawson. I actually really like Miranda. Her progression throughout the game is really good. She starts out as a very entitled, kind of stuck up, snotty, better than thou kind of attitude. And then as you get to know her, you realize that that's very much a mask. And you help break down some of those walls and help her see that she's got worth beyond what her genetics give her. Mordin Solus. Easily one of the best characters in the entire series. Absolutely love Mordin. Very science, very quirky, but yet ruthlessly efficient. There's a line that I'll probably have play under this where he says that you can heal people or you can execute dangerous criminals. Either way helps. So anyway, great character. We'll definitely do more of a deep dive in him when we get into Mass Effect 3. Jack, another S tier companion. He's great progression arc. Basically starts out as the kid that always looks or always is the cynical person. And again, once you get past the trauma that she's been through, she's actually a really cool person. Again, really good transition as we get into Mass Effect 3. Grunt, he's a Krogan. He's from a race that is just a fighter, just a giant tanky brawler kind of race. But this one, he's just so funny. I love Grunt. Samira or Morinth. So this is a mother-daughter duo that they essentially want to kill each other for various reasons. And you will have the choice to help one or the other. I pretty much exclusively go for Samara just because I don't ever trust Morinth, and I don't think Shepard really ever would either, so why would I want Morinth on the ship? Anyway, but either way, that whole arc in Mass Effect 2 is really fun. Depending on who you choose has a pretty significant impact in what goes on in Mass Effect 3, which is really interesting. Thane Krios, another S tier companion. If not quite as good as some of our other high-end ones, but I love Thane. Basically, he's an assassin that he found out he's got a terminal illness, and now he's just looking to make the galaxy a better place before he dies. He's just really fun. Legion. In Mass Effect 1, we met the Geth. And in Mass Effect 2, we don't really see much of the Geth, and when we do, we're fighting them. So when we come across Legion, who is a Geth, and he actually is there to help us, we're kind of confused, and his whole arc is really fascinating. Legion is how we, except for one of the DLC missions, Legion's input is kind of our biggest clue as to what the Reapers are doing behind the scenes, and how they're trying to manipulate the galaxy before they come back. But yeah, Legion, really fun character. Then we got our 2 DLC companions. Kasumi Goto, another assassin. Well, more of just a professional thief that also happens to be really good at assassination. Really clever, a lot of really good lines. Not quite as strong as some of the other companions, but still fun. Zaid Masani, career soldier, merc. Like he's got one eye that's totally messed up. I don't think it's a glass eye, but there's something up with it. Anyway, he's always got a war story to tell. He's got a very fun personality. I love his cameo in Mass Effect 3 for those who have seen that. And so those are all of our new ones. Those are all new characters that we didn't get to meet in Mass Effect 1. So what happened to all of our characters that we met in Mass Effect 1? Well, some of these characters could have died in Mass Effect 1, so not all of them are necessarily here in Mass Effect 2. And this is probably what makes this whole series, I kind of talked about it in the Mass Effect 1 video, but what makes the whole series so fascinating is the whole concept that your actions have consequences beyond just the single game. So these characters, these main characters, could have died, and their deaths would have impacts in the games going forward. So, returning characters, if they survived Mass Effect 1. We've got Garrus Vakarian. Best bro. Nothing's changed. Except now, in Mass Effect 1, he was a cop that was now just trying to see what he could do to help make the galaxy a better place. And then Shepard, again, dies in the first 10 minutes of Mass Effect 2. Crew kind of goes their separate ways. And so now Garrus is trying to figure out what he's going to do without Shepard. And so he ends up going on this little crusade. So depending on if you pushed him towards being a rebel, red tape is more of like for suggestion than law. Then he'll have a whole different attitude and path coming into Mass Effect 2, versus if you encourage him, like, no, like, we need to be the law that we expect other people to follow. And so then again, that will impact. But beyond that, he's just a fun guy. I absolutely love Garrus. Tali'Zorah Vasnima. The mission you have with Tali in the game, the loyalty mission, is probably my second favorite mission in the game, second only to the final mission, which we'll get into later. Just because no matter whether you pick the Paragon option, the Renegade option, there's just nothing to compare to having Shepard yell at the Quarian admirals. It's just so fun. Man, this is taking longer. Joker, he makes a return. Dr. Chakwas is back. Again, depending on who survives, Kaidan Olenko or Ashley Williams are back. Although I will make another comment about those two. Those two, of all the characters I've named, only Kaidan or Ashley will have made it into Mass Effect 2. You make a choice and only one of them comes out of it towards the end of Mass Effect 1. So depending on who makes it into Mass Effect 2, they will meet you on Horizon, which is a planet in one of the systems. And they basically say, hey, I don't trust the group that you are currently with, so respectfully, or not so respectfully, depending on how the conversation goes, wish you well, I'm out. And so they abandon you in Mass Effect 2. Liara T'Soni, she's got her own problems that she's working on, which gives us one of the best, if not the best, DLC in the Mass Effect trilogies. Trilogy, I guess it's just one trilogy. With Layer of the Shadow Broker, you get to help Liara for that, and that's just so much fun. And then we get to see, or not Rex. We get to see him back now, no longer as a bounty hunter, but as a leader of his clan and looking to bring the Krogan race together again and prepare for what would be the Reapers coming back. And there's so many more characters that are minor, some kind of major, but anyway, so many characters, all with their arcs, all with their development. Like the level of detail that was put into each of these characters is astounding. Yeah, protagonists, I 6 out of 5. Like they drive this series, honestly. Yeah, moving on. And that brings us to our antagonists, the Collectors. Now, I have to admit, I really think the Collectors are probably one of the more unique antagonists that I've come across. Just in terms of how they relate to the broader group of antagonists, the Reapers. So the Collectors are what remains of the Protheans. In case you have not played Mass Effect 1, or if you've didn't watch my video on Mass Effect 1, the Protheans were the race that existed in the Milky Way galaxy 50,000 years ago. They basically ruled the Milky Way galaxy with an iron fist, and the Reapers came then and wiped them out, leaving behind humanity and all the other budding races across the galaxy to then start and rule the next cycle. So we thought that all of those Protheans had been wiped out, but we find out that the Reapers actually enslaved, genetically modified, and basically took over the remaining Protheans and kind of turned them into hive-minded slaves. And so we now have this group that there's been rumors of the Collectors going through the Milky Way galaxy, and like it's kind of like the boogeyman. Everyone kind of thought that they were just a fairy tale, but turns out they actually are there. In terms of what they're doing here in Mass Effect 2, they are abducting human colonies. Colonies that Earth has been like, hey, we need more territory than just Earth. Let's inhabit some of these other worlds that these other races haven't wanted to claim. And this will be our new area. And so the Collectors are going and just abducting colonies wholesale. And we don't find out what they're doing to them until the very, very final mission. So we end up spending pretty much the entire game trying to hunt them down, figure out what they're doing, how they're doing it, and finding out ways to get to them. Anyway, but yeah, they're fascinating in terms of in terms of like how they relate to the Reapers and all that. So, yeah, 5 out of 5. So for environmental storytelling, I'm pretty much going to have the same commentary that I did on the Mass Effect 1 video. there's enough going on between all the new characters, the new environments, all the missions that you fight through that I'm kind of willing to overlook the fact that there's not really much going on in the environment itself. I mean, the music is great. The all the banter and all the stuff that's going on with all of those characters in all of these worlds and in all these environments, it's all good. So by no stretch of the imagination is it going to get a low score because there is a lot there. A lot of effort is put into what's going on in the environment, but because pretty much none of it actually relates to the actual story, 4 out of 5. Um, Definitely not bad. It's still impressive. It's just not as impressive as some of the like what really makes this game as good as it is. So yeah, 4 out of 5. And now that leaves us with story development. Um, I wasn't exactly sure how I wanted to rate the story development because it's so linear and it's all missions. It's all, okay, I'm going to this world to do this one 15-minute mission, and then I pack up and I go somewhere else to do the next world's 15-minute mission. So for something like that, I would normally rank it fairly low, like a 2 or a 3. But because of how everything works together, if you are not careful with what you are doing in what order. For example, I've played the game enough times that I kind of have a set rhythm for which missions I do in which order so that I always get the outcome that I want. But the first time that I played and I didn't know the order, I missed so much just because there's certain time gates, I guess you could call them, where like, okay, once you do this mission, then these missions are no longer available. Or there will be dire consequences, I guess would be better, if you go into those missions before doing others. The best example will be the final mission. Now, I gave a spoiler warning before, but let's give one more spoiler warning here. Just be aware we'll be discussing the final mission of the game for a second. Because this is what makes the story development stand out, and this is what brings my rating for this section up so high. The final mission is literally called the Suicide Mission. And basically you've been working all game to build up your team, to build up your team's morale, to get to know what their abilities are, to build up shore up their weaknesses, I guess would be the best way to put it. And you reach a point where it's the point of no return. You are going through that gate and you are not coming back unless you win. And everything that happens in that mission is final. You can die. If you die, then you don't handle it properly, the game save file will show that you have died and you cannot use that game as to follow up in Mass Effect 3. You just can't because you died. So all the progress that you made in Mass Effect 2 or Mass Effect 1 through Mass Effect 2 with this character, it's done. You got to start over. preferably from a save from before you screwed up. But that's just a fascinating idea. But same thing with all your companions. There's no plot armor on any of your characters at all. I still remember the first time playing Mass Effect 2. What would it have been? 2011, 2012, somewhere. I can't remember when I started getting into Mass Effect 2. But I remember playing it for the first time, and by the time the opening cutscene for that mission had ended, my crew, my list of companions was cut in half. Just clean in half. Half of my team was dead. Needless to say, I ended that run right at the end of that cutscene, went back to the beginning and said, what did I miss? And went through and started messing with different things and realized that there were certain upgrades that I could have gotten if I had gone and talked to this person or that person. Anyway, that's kind of getting off topic, but so for story development, you've got these missions that normally it kind of makes it hard to follow the story. Like, it makes it a little less fun, but because of how it's organized, because of how they work together, like the long-lasting consequences that can occur from doing missions in a certain order gives it makes up for it. And especially the final mission, the climax of the game, the denouement, where you get certain characters making choices that's like, no, I'm gonna go and do my own thing. We've got the Reapers to prepare for, because at this point we've got all the evidence that we need to be able to prove to ourselves that the Reapers are coming. They will be here in the next few years, and we got to prepare. So at the end of all that, 5 out of 5. And that brings us to the end of this edition of Story Review. We've got a final score of 10 out of 10. Kind of surprised that it ranked a little bit behind Mass Effect 1. Given my history with the trilogy, I really, not to say that Mass Effect 1 was bad, but I definitely have the least hours in Mass Effect 1, just because of how hard it was for me to get around some of the gameplay mechanics for so long. Thank heavens for the Mass Effect Legendary Edition going in and revamping it, making it so much easier and better to play. But yeah, still really solid game. Definitely would recommend picking it up. Legendary Edition's available on all platforms: PC, PlayStation, Xbox. Might even be on the Switch. Probably not. I don't remember. But yeah, totally worth picking up, especially at the price point that it's at. Like, at most it was $60 for the whole trilogy, and that is an absolute steal. So if it's on a better sale on whichever game store you have, it's even more worth the pickup. So for now, that is going to be it. I do have one question for those who have made it this far in the video. I'm actually looking at, instead of streaming on Twitch when summer starts, streaming on YouTube Gaming instead. A lot of it has to do with the fact that, quite simply, I've got more subscribers here on YouTube than I do on Twitch. And I was streaming on Twitch long before I started doing anything here on YouTube. So if you could leave any ideas in the comments section for me, I'd greatly appreciate it. And I will let you know in a future video whether like what the choice ends up being in that regard. Anyway, quick plug for the Discord as well. Link will be down in the description. That is where I would say if you have any recommendations for games that I should play, there is a channel in my Discord for game suggestions, and that is where I will be pulling the games that will be coming up after I finish up the Mass Effect 3 review. That's where they'll be coming up from. So, I think that's everything that I have today. Thank you for joining me here in the den, and we will see you back for the next story review.